Let's dive right into this and actually track the biological life cycle of an optimized brain over a single day. In this explainer, we're mapping out the journey from the painful, heavy reality of morning brain fog straight through to the absolute peak of cognitive flow. Because look, if you've ever felt like your nervous system is just trapped in a state of chronic burnout, or that your ability to focus has been completely shattered by modern stress, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to use modern neuroscience to rebuild your day from the ground up, and we're optimizing for longevity, emotional resilience, and a profound sense of mental clarity. We absolutely have to start with this deeply relatable question. When that alarm goes off and you feel entirely weighed down by this intense exhaustion, it is so easy to just blame yourself. But I want to validate that struggle for you right now. That morning grogginess, it's not a lack of discipline, it's definitely not a moral failing. It is a harsh, measurable, biological reality that you literally have to actively overcome every single morning. And the numbers on this are actually kind of jarring. Research shows that within the first 3 minutes of waking up from deep, slow-wave sleep, your brain's decision-making capacity literally plummets to just 51% of its peak performance. Think about that. You are operating on exactly half a tank. Your brain is physiologically impaired right out of the gate, which is exactly why reaching for your phone to doom scroll or trying to process complex information the second you open your eyes feels so incredibly overwhelming to your nervous system. This heavy, almost concrete-like feeling is a biological state called sleep inertia. Essentially, your brain is flooded with lingering delta waves and really high levels of adenosine, which is the chemical that creates sleep pressure, all while dealing with reduced cerebral blood flow. Now, on average, this groggy state lasts about 15.8 minutes, but here is where your emotional wellness really comes into play. If you suffer from anxiety or high stress, that sleep inertia extends by an additional 14.3 minutes. Your nervous system literally takes longer to boot up, so you have to actively transition your biology before you can ever expect peak cognitive output. Okay, moving to section 1, your brain's nightly wash, taking a look at the glymphatic system. Let's actually rewind to the dead of night to look at the microscopic neuroscience of exactly what your brain was doing before that painful alarm sounded. Because the true foundation of a focused morning is built in the darkest hours of your sleep. To understand how we actually clear out that debilitating brain fog, we have to look at two critical fluids that make up the brain's nocturnal waste clearance pathway. First, cerebrospinal fluid, which cushions the brain and spinal cord, and second, interstitial fluid, which surrounds your actual tissues and cells. So the really crucial point here is that during deep, stage 3 NREM sleep, your brain activates what is called the glymphatic system. It's wild. Your brain cells actually physically shrink by up to 60%. This creates space for those two fluids we just mentioned to actively exchange through specialized channels. They act like a biological power wash, clearing away toxic metabolic waste, like lactic acid and Alzheimer's-linked proteins like amyloid beta and tau, that will absolutely destroy your focus the next day if they aren't cleared. It is, quite literally, a nightly brainwash. Section 2, decoding your sleep chronotype and working with your genetics. Now let's explore how your individual, unique genetics actually dictate the timing of this nightly wash and your subsequent morning alertness. Whether you naturally fall into the category of a lion, a bear, a wolf, or a dolphin, your chronotype is not just a lifestyle choice. It's hardwired into your biology by the PER3 gene and the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain. This specific biology dictates exactly when your internal 24-hour clock says you should naturally wake up and when your cognitive capabilities will naturally peak. If you're a wolf, trying to do your absolute hardest deep work at 8 a.m. is literally fighting your own DNA. Aligning your life with this internal biological rhythm is a massive, absolutely crucial step toward burnout recovery and sustainable energy. Which brings us to section 3, priming for peak performance through neurochemical morning routines. Moving chronologically into the morning, we need to know how to actively prime this newly awakened, chronotype-aligned brain for the day ahead. Waking up is really just step 1. Before you do anything else, you absolutely must hit these biological reset buttons within the first 30 minutes of waking up. First, get 15 to 20 minutes of natural sunlight directly into your eyes to suppress that lingering melatonin. Second, drink 16 to 20 ounces of water immediately to restore your cognitive function. And third, stick to a highly consistent wake time. Doing this aggressively combats that sleep inertia we talked about and regulates your cortisol awakening response, which is vital for keeping your nervous system grounded and keeping morning stress completely in check. Once you're awake and physiologically resetting, you can start leveraging structured routines. A great example is Robin Sharma's famous 60-minute victory hour from the 5 a.m. club. This formula is divided into 3 20-minute blocks: move, reflect, and grow. Science tells us it takes about 66 days to fully install this as an automatic habit, but the ultimate goal here is to deliberately induce a state of creative focus and emotional grounding long before the rest of the world demands your attention. The science behind that first 20-minute move block is super fascinating. The intense sweating immediately after waking, it isn't just about physical fitness. It's a precise biological mechanism. It floods your prefrontal cortex with its ultimate neurococktail. You decrease the stress hormone cortisol while simultaneously spiking your dopamine, boosting serotonin, and increasing BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This repairs your neural connections and sets an emotionally grounded, highly resilient tone for your entire day. Now into Section 4, the Deep Work Protocol, and finding focus in a highly distracted world. This is where we transition into the peak of your workday, where your primed, neurochemically balanced, and freshly washed brain gets to shine. Computer science professor Cal Newport really hits the nail on the head here. We live in a modern ecosystem engineered for constant distraction, constantly hijacking our dopamine balance. In this kind of world, cultivating profound, uninterrupted focus gives you a massive, almost unfair competitive advantage. So what is it exactly? Well, deep work isn't just tabbing between emails and Slack messages. It is an intense biological state of flow. It requires pushing your cognitive capabilities to their absolute limit in a totally distraction-free zone. This is the only type of work that produces high-value results that are incredibly hard for anyone else, or any AI for that matter, to replicate. To master this, Newport relies on 4 strict rules. Schedule 90-minute focus blocks where you work deeply. Embrace boredom to retrain your attention span away from constant, cheap dopamine hits. Quit the digital noise of social media. And finally, drain the shallows by minimizing trivial tasks, which culminates in a definitive daily shutdown ritual. Ending your day with a clear, shutdown complete mantra signals to your brain that work is over, preserving your fragile willpower and protecting your nervous system from chronic stress overload. We've explored the fascinating biology of how your brain cleans itself, how your genetics dictate your peak hours, and the neurochemical triggers that lock you into deep, distraction-free flow. So I want to leave you with this lingering thought and a challenge to apply these modern neuroscience protocols yourself. The very next time your alarm rings, how will you choose to conquer your brain fog and reclaim the quiet power of your own mind?